Okay, it's coming up for 5:30, and it's glorious outside, and the bar is calling, and here's a guy to talk about risk management, right? So I sympathise, but bear with me, because really what this is about is it's about a strategy to orange pill a medium and large enterprise. Okay. So this is really born out of my own experience as an educator and some of the issues that I've come up against. So I've called this Ignore Bitcoin, Ignore Risk, a wake-up call, and it's really aimed at medium and large organizations. Hooray, we're up, right. Not quite, yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that's what this is about, but if we think about my own career, I started out as an aerospace engineer. So there's a picture of a Boeing 777 there, and I wrote a ton of code for the primary flight computer. And from there, I moved to the City of London and ended up in the Lloyd's market, developing financial software. And then, to cut a long story short, I ended up running a technology equity fund for 15 years, and I've sat on a number of boards in the regulated investment space. But when I look at all of that, it really is, the common thread is risk, okay? It's all an exercise in risk management. And that's true for anyone running a business or a large project. They're making risk management decisions every day. So, as an educator then, you're probably familiar with this meme, right? The guy on the left, he's figured it out, right? He's excited, you know, he's gone down the rabbit hole and the penny's dropped and he's seen it, he can't unsee it, and he wants to educate everybody. And especially it might be the organization in which he works. So he might be talking to senior managers within his own organization. And the problem is they're not really listening. You know, and we've all spoken to people. Probably many of us in this room have been in this position where someone's talking back at you, and they couldn't describe the Bitcoin network and protocol at a rudimentary level, and yet they have a very strong opinion about it, right? So, in a way, there's always this kind of virtual brick wall between the educator and the organization, but we should have a little bit of sympathy for the organization in this regard. What we got here is just an example of some of the negative headlines in the Financial Times over the last few years, and these are coming at you month by month if you follow what they say about Bitcoin in the Financial Times. So it's interesting. We've had 17 years of Bitcoin now, and if anybody wants to reach out to me and show me a positive article in the Financial Times about Bitcoin, I'll be delighted to see it. So if you're an executive in a medium to large organization, you're going to be looking at this. And this doesn't challenge your biases, right? It confirms them. It gives you the feeling that somehow you're being sensible and conservative and risk averse if you're avoiding Bitcoin, right? And that's a challenge for an educator to get around that. So as an educator, what happens? You just end up fighting the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. All the myths and misconceptions out there that we're all familiar with, right? So you end up having you get into these intellectual jousting sessions, okay? So this is quite a friendly audience, but I've spoken to audiences where it's not so friendly, and I can see people sitting there with their arms folded, and I'm waiting for the Q&A and thinking, oh God, here we go, you know? It's going to be, there's no intrinsic value, and it kills polar bears and all this kind of thing, you know? So, is that the right strategy to fight the FUD? What if we turn the tables? What if we turn the tables on the organization? Now, an organization might have a conviction. It doesn't necessarily have to be about Bitcoin. It could be about anything. And you should be able to ask the organization, how will you know if you are wrong? What conditions or metrics will alert you that either confirms your convictions or challenges it in a significant way? And importantly, are you missing out on opportunities and threats because you have a certain conviction? Risk management is not necessarily about dealing with threats. It's about finding opportunity as well. So these are just sensible risk management questions, okay? Now, what does risk management mean? Look, this is a textbook explanation. Look, I'm not going to dwell on it. It's the disciplined process of identifying, assessing, and preparing for uncertainty to protect value and seek opportunity. Look, that's fairly standard. But what does it mean in plain English? It means literally that we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're trying to prepare anyway, right? And that requires a certain humility and acceptance of doubt on behalf of the organization. And we've all seen over the last 20, 25 years, certainly around the global financial crisis, what happens when big operations don't have, or big organizations don't have the required humility and acceptance of doubt, and they're just too certain. So in a Bitcoin context then, what questions could we ask the organization to challenge their biases? Well, you could ask, what if Bitcoin becomes a global treasury reserve asset, okay? That's used not just by individuals, by corporations, by governments, at local level, at national level, by sovereign wealth funds, by central banks even. Now that might have been a strange question 5 years ago, but certainly we can see now that we're on a path to get to that destination. We're not there yet, but no reasonable person would argue that we're not on that path. We might get knocked off it, something might happen, but we're certainly on the path to get there. What if Bitcoin becomes a widely accepted medium of exchange for goods and services? How will that impact the organization? How will that impact your business lines? What if it becomes a settlement layer for internet-based commerce? Okay, could happen, right? It's possible. We could get to the point where it becomes the chosen settlement layer in a world without borders, where we don't necessarily trust counterparties 100%. And to give you an anecdote, I put these questions to a very senior manager at a tier 1 bank a couple of years ago, and he just sort of shook his head and laughed. And I said, well, okay, give me a probability. What's the probability that these things will happen? And he said, 5%. I said, that's enough. 5% is enough. If you thought there was a 5% chance that your house was going to burn down, you'd mitigate that risk. You'd do something about it, right? And that's what this is about. Who has to answer risk management questions? It's the board. The buck stops with the board as far as risk management is concerned. Why? Because they are the guardians of shareholder capital. They have a fiduciary duty to manage risk, not just on behalf of shareholders, but for everyone, for all stakeholders in the organization. And when we think about the organization, we're not necessarily talking just about businesses or investment managers. We could be talking about governments at a local level, at a national level. What about regulators? What about pensions, the not-for-profit sector, NGOs? Their board is a board of trustees, but it has the same job. Their job is to steer the organization away from threats and towards opportunity. Right? So if you want to orange pill a medium to large organization, what might be the best way to do it? Get Bitcoin on the risk register. This is my message to medium to large organizations, because every medium and large organization should have a risk register. What is a risk register? It is a living record of all the headwinds, the risks that should face the organization, and a record of how the company plans to manage those risks. So there are 5 key actions. The first is you have a thought experiment and you identify the risks. Okay? And it's important when you think about risk is to think about consequence. Don't think about probability. If you think about probability, you think, oh, that's not going to happen, so I won't bother putting it on the risk register, right? But think about consequence. Probability is a subjective thing. We can disagree on it, but consequence is often very clear if things go wrong, or right even. The second action is to identify the impact on the organization of that risk. Now, that's a very interesting one in a Bitcoin context, because that guy that didn't understand the Bitcoin network and protocol, if the organization is doing this part properly, they have to study Bitcoin. They have to study the network and protocol and understand the impact on the organization fully in order to make a proper assessment. So next you evaluate the impact. You assess the likelihood, that's the probability, but the magnitude, the consequence, that's more important in a way. So you assess those things as far as the organization is concerned. Then you decide what action you're going to take or not take. So you could choose to accept it, okay? You could choose to accept the risk as it is. I'm not going to do anything about it. Well, that's fine. Document it. Document the reasons why you think Bitcoin is a risk you're just prepared to accept and you're not prepared to do anything about it. Alternatively, you might see it as a genuine threat and you have to mitigate. But what's interesting, risk management, as I said, is not necessarily just about mitigating risk, it's about exploiting opportunities as well. So you might actually decide, once you understand Bitcoin, to embrace it. You might decide to embrace it and exploit that as an opportunity to maybe get a leg up on the opposition, on the competition. And finally, you rinse and repeat, right? There's a periodic review where you'll come back and rebase, potentially in the light of fresh information. And in a world of disruptive technology, there's likely to be fresh information. So you should periodically review it. But as I said, it's this second task, the application to the organization, that really drags the organization down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and actually starts to break down this virtual brick wall that I mentioned earlier. And what's interesting, it's not the educator that's done it. It's not me locking horns with them over FUD points. It's the organization itself that has done it by asking straightforward and sensible risk management questions of itself. Now, a little bit of history then. I'm sure we're familiar with some of these brands. You know, I'm not going to go through them, but you know, these were examples of brands that were laid low by disruptive technology or failed to adapt to disruptive technology, whether it be the rise of the internet or digital media. So yes, it's simply poor risk management. That's the only way you can look at it. And I can think of the example there of a well-known retail founder who said, you know, you techies with the internet, you think you're so smart, but you don't understand retail the way I do. Well, he's right. Of course he's right. But it doesn't matter because the techies are creating a new system that's rendering his obsolete. And that's where the risk management fell down. If we look at risk management as an opportunity, this is interesting because what we've done here, we've looked at the top 20 technology companies by capitalization and looked at where they're domiciled, where their headquarters are. Of the top 20, 14 are in the United States. Only one is in Europe. So the question is, which territory, which jurisdiction maybe has the more, shall we say, effective approach to risk management? And a lot of this came out of the internet and more recently AI, but when I look at Bitcoin and digital assets, and I look at what's coming out of the United States now, how Wall Street is embracing it, how technology companies are embracing it, how we've got the Clarity Act coming, and you know, this is history repeating. Is that where we're at? Is history starting to repeat itself? So, questions for organizations then is ignoring Bitcoin a risk you're prepared to take? If so, document it. Get it on the risk register and explain to your stakeholders, open source it, and explain to your shareholders why that is the case. If you're ignoring Bitcoin, is that a bet that Bitcoin will fail? It's gone from zero to over $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion where it is at the moment. Are you betting that's all going to go into reverse? Are you unduly certain about Bitcoin? Of the dangers of being too certain, I'm reminded of a quote by Stephen Fry. He said, one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than effective. So prioritize being ready over being correct. That's what good risk management is about. And as I said, focus on consequence A focus on probability just results in poor controls and contingency planning. And if we're thinking about consequence in a Bitcoin context, there's probably nothing more consequential than resetting mankind's relationship with money itself, right? That's highly consequential. So, call to action then, if you want to be the Bitcoin person in your organization, get Bitcoin on the risk register. Why? Because ignoring risk simply destroys shareholder value, and the history is littered with examples. We don't need to go through them, right? Ignoring Bitcoin is simply poor risk management. Now, there are a lot of businesses out there, medium and large, that are happy to ignore Bitcoin, but they're not happy to be labeled poor risk managers, right? So, in the small time I've got left, I just want to introduce Me Premier Bitcoin. You might not be familiar with them, or you are. It's the shirt I'm wearing at the moment because, as a side gig, I've developed content for this education not-for-profit that's based out in El Salvador that started in 2021. That's the Bitcoin Diploma workbook on the right-hand side. I encourage you to go hop onto the website and download that. There are 30,000 diplomas issued. And what we've got most recently, we've got the Bitcoin for Organizations program. Okay, so I'll just quickly whiz through this. We've got 4 sections. We've got industry verticals. We've tried to write a module for each of these, but it's not complete, you know. So what we have here, for instance, we have energy, government, not-for-profit, investment management, professional services, and banking, but we haven't got real estate, construction, we haven't got pharmaceuticals, luxury goods. So if anybody wants to help Me Premier Bitcoin, my first Bitcoin, and you feel you have an area of expertise in this, or you want to improve what we've already got, it's all open source. Please reach out to them and offer your help. What we want is for this to be a living, breathing thing, okay? This will develop as the Bitcoin economy grows. Eternal functions, these are common to all organizations. We've got treasury management, risk, IT, but there are others, HR, facilities management, etc. Risk is the one that I pulled out some of the content for this talk. So you get a feel for the kind of thing that we're presenting. Fighting the FUD then, dispelling the myths. We've got 10 of these. So this might be a handy little compendium for the educator to push back on some of those myths and misconceptions out there. We've got government ban, there's no intrinsic value, CBDCs will render it obsolete, and you know it damages the environment, etc. And then finally, we've got a deeper dive that puts a bit more color on your Bitcoin learning experience. So we've got a possible future thought experiment, the discovery of digital scarcity, and the rise of the Bitcoin economy and how we might access the ledger and slice and dice the information in real time as the Bitcoin economy grows. There could be some incredible learnings there. So I know it's a bit of a whiz, I apologize for that, but please visit myfirstbitcoin.org. We've got the introduction to Bitcoin on there, the Bitcoin Diploma Workbook, Bitcoin for Organizations that I've just mentioned. Bitcoin for Juniors is new, that's up. There's a feedback form as well, and if you want to help us, please reach out, and I'll be around later if you want to have a chat with me anyway. Thanks a lot for listening.